It started with a tightness in my chest, just a dull ache at first, like someone pressing their thumb down hard between my ribs. I was standing at the sink, rinsing the breakfast dishes, the morning sun spilling through the kitchen window, catching in the glass and gleaming against the chrome faucet. The air smelled of eggs and toast, of something warm and domestic, but suddenly it felt too still, too heavy. I reached for the countertop to steady myself, and that's when I realized something was wrong, seriously wrong. I called out, not loudly, just a strained, wheezing Liam. But my voice didn't carry like it should have. I remember gripping the edge of the sink and then, in a fog of instinct, stumbling toward the hallway. My legs felt like bags of flour. By the time I reached the bedroom door, I knew I couldn't ignore it anymore. I needed help. I needed an ambulance. And that's when everything broke. Everything I thought I understood about my son, about trust, about how fragile the line is between love and something colder. He stood at the threshold of my room, all of 16 years old, his face blank in a way I couldn't quite read. I told him I was in pain, that it felt like my chest was caving in. He didn't say anything, just stepped forward, gently took my phone from my hand and turned away. Liam, I gasped, panic rising in my throat like bile. Call an ambulance. Please. He didn't look back. Instead, he walked out, pulled the door shut, and I heard it. The click of the lock sliding into place. I should tell you about Liam, my boy, my only child. He was born under pale hospital lights after 36 hours of labor and 2 years of trying. I remember holding him in my arms, the weight of him like a new universe, and thinking, I will do anything to protect this child. Anything. We were close, especially after his father left. It was just me and Liam against the world. I raised him on bedtime stories and leftover spaghetti, on morning cartoons and late-night math homework. He used to have a dimple when he smiled, and he loved dinosaurs, then robots, then coding. Brilliant kid. Quiet. Always thinking. But something shifted around his 13th birthday, subtle at first. Less eye contact, shorter responses. The warmth began to go out of his voice, replaced by something more mechanical. He got angry when I tried to ask about school, about friends. When I pressed, he'd retreat behind his door, or worse, he'd stare straight through me like I wasn't even there. I tried everything. Therapists, school counselors, extra time, more boundaries, fewer boundaries. Nothing seemed to reach him. And then there was that night a year ago, when I found the bruises on his arm. He said he'd fallen off his bike, but his knuckles were scabbed like he'd been in a fight. That's when I started hearing about Ethan. Ethan, his father. My ex-husband. The man who vanished when Liam was 4 and hadn't sent a postcard since. I'd spent a decade stitching up the hole he left behind, and now Liam had been talking to him. Secretly, online, I'd found messages, cryptic controlling. Ethan's voice, slick with charm and venom, whispering things into my boy's ear. Lee's mostly. That I was the reason he left. That I was unstable. That Liam was old enough to choose who he wanted in his life. I confronted Liam. He told me to stay out of his business. That he wanted to see his dad. We didn't speak for 3 days after that fight. And now, here I was, locked in my own room, my chest caving in, with my son on the other side of the door, ignoring my cries for help. At first, I tried to keep calm. I paced the room short steps so I wouldn't pass out. I knocked gently, then louder, then I screamed. My heart was thudding too fast, and the pain had started crawling down my left arm. Liam, I shouted, voice cracking, I need help. I think I'm having a heart attack! No answer. I threw myself against the door, kicked it, pounded with both fists until my vision blurred. I sank to the floor, sobbing, trying not to hyperventilate. I was terrified, not just of dying, but of why. Why was he doing this? The hours dragged on. The light changed. I drifted in and out of a dazed half-sleep, lying curled near the door like a dog waiting for its master. And then a sound, a whisper of movement, a chair scraping, footsteps. I dragged myself upright. Liam, I croaked, a pause. I was just trying to help, he said. His voice was distant, dull, like he was underwater. You don't trust me. You never have. You read my messages. You spied on me. I was trying to protect you, I said.
From what? From my dad?
From knowing the truth. I pressed my forehead to the door. Ethan doesn't care about you, Liam. He never has. He's using you to get at me. I don't believe you. Then silence. And that was worse than anything. One of the subplots in this nightmare was the house itself. The one Ethan and I bought when I was pregnant. I stayed in it after the divorce because I wanted Liam to grow up somewhere stable. But now it felt like a cage. Every locked window, every muffled corner, whispered betrayal. The second subplot, my own body. I'd had a heart murmur since college. Benign, the doctors said. But lately there'd been more fatigue, dizziness. I should have gone in for tests. I didn't. I was too busy worrying about Liam, working double shifts at the hospital, filling every minute with motion so I wouldn't have to feel the stillness. The truth is, I ignored myself for years, until my body gave me no choice. When the door finally opened, the room was dark. Hours had passed. I could barely sit up. Liam stood there, holding a water bottle. He looked pale, haunted. His hands were trembling. I Googled your symptoms, he said. I think you're okay. You just need rest. I looked up at him, tears streaking my face. Do you understand what you've done? He looked away. You brought this on yourself. Those words broke something in me. Not just because of the cruelty, but because I knew, somewhere deep down, that he believed it. And I knew, right then, that this wasn't just a sick boy acting out. This was a son being weaponized by a father who wanted revenge. Eventually, I escaped. I waited until Liam was asleep. The lock was cheap. I jimmied it open with a metal hairpin from my nightstand. I called 911 from the landline in the hallway. The paramedics arrived within minutes. I was lucky. It wasn't a full heart attack, but a warning. A serious one. They admitted me overnight. I told the doctors the truth. I told Child Protective Services, too. And I told Ethan. He showed up at the hospital, all crocodile tears and legal threats. But I wasn't the woman he left a decade ago. This time, I had records, messages, phone logs. I had the strength to tell the whole story. Liam was placed in temporary care. I begged the social workers not to treat him like a criminal. He wasn't evil. He was confused, manipulated, and full of anger that had nowhere to go. It took months of therapy, family sessions, individual counseling, for us to begin speaking again. One night, maybe 6 months after everything happened, he looked at me across the dinner table. We were eating quietly. The dog was snoring under the table. Outside, the wind rattled the window panes. And he said, I thought he loved me. I thought you didn't. I reached across the table and took his hand. I never stopped loving you, I said, even when you locked that door. His eyes filled with tears, but he didn't let them fall. He just nodded. That was enough. Healing isn't a clean line. It doesn't move forward in straight steps. Some nights, I still wake up sweating, heart racing, reaching for a door that won't open. And some days, Liam still flinches when I ask too many questions. But we're trying. We walk the dog together. We watch old movies. We talk, really talk. Sometimes love isn't soft or easy. Sometimes it's brutal. But it's also a choice. I chose him again and again, even when he turned the lock. And in time, he chose me back. If there's a lesson in all of this, it's this. Sometimes the people we love most will hurt us, not out of malice, but out of pain they don't know how to name. And sometimes, the bravest thing we can do is stand in that pain, ask for help, and still choose love. But love doesn't mean staying silent. It means fighting for your own life, your own heart, and for the people you refuse to give up on, even when the door is locked.